אוקיי. Good evening, ערב טוב. ערב טוב לכל מי שתכף מצטרף אלינו. למפגש בלייב עם ליסה אשטון.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, Lisa. It's amazing. Wonderful to have you. Good evening, ערב טוב. Wonderful to have you, Lisa. Thank you again for joining us, and wonderful to talk to you again. תודה רבה ליסה אשטון שמצטרפת אלינו היום למפגש היכרות, ואני מאוד מרגישה ברת מזל שיצא לי להכיר את ליסה גם כמרצה שלי באוניברסיטת אדינבורו בלימודים, וגם כחברה וקולגה. זה מאוד מרגש, ועכשיו אני שמחה יש לכם הזדמנות להכיר אותה גם. אז ברוכים הבאים לכל מי שמצטרף אלינו בפייסבוק וביוטיוב. המפגש הזה גם יוקלט, אז ככה אל דאגה אם אתם צריכים לעזוב באמצע, אבל אנחנו נשמח שתמשיכו איתנו, ושתכתבו לנו בתגובות. Hi from Canada. כן, hi, welcome. רק כדי שאני אוכל למשל להציג את השם שלכם כשאתם כותבים את התגובות והם יופיעו ככה למטה נחמד, תאשרו לסטרים יארד להציג את הפרופיל שלכם. אז יש קישור בפוסט, זה ככה יעזור לי, אני אוכל להציג. אני מנחשת שזאת רייצ'ל מקנדה. So thank you, Lisa, again.
StreamYard permission, doesn't it? Is that what the lady from Canada or person from Canada needs? StreamYard. I understood your translation. That StreamYard needs to press. Please give StreamYard permission so we can see who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right on point. So, yeah, we can start. אז תודה שהצטרפתם, אני אתרגם תוך כדי חלק מהמצגות עם תרגום של נקודות עיקריות. אם יש לכם שאלות, ובבקשה תשאלו, ובבקשה תחשבו על שאלות תוך כדי, ליסה פה כדי לענות, ואם צריך הבהרות לתרגום, או אתם רוצים לכתוב את השאלה שלכם בעברית, אני פה איתכם ומלווה אתכם. אז ליסה היא מאמנת בכירה, ומרצה, ובאופן כללי היא עוסקת בעצם אימון שמבוסס על מדעי האקוויטציה, evidence-based training, שמבוסס על מדע ועל מחקרים ועל עובדות, שזה נושא מאוד מאוד מעניין, והיום היא תדבר איתנו על כל מיני דברים שקשורים להיות השינוי בעצם, ושינוי תפיסה למען הסוסים שלנו. אז תודה רבה לליסה ותהנו. So thanks, Lisa. The floor is yours.
Wow, lovely. What a gorgeous, I'm listening, not understanding any word, but it sounds so beautiful. So yeah, thank you for translating. Okay, are we good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see my screen good?
Yeah, and wait. A few glitches. Yeah, no, but you're okay. Okay, so go ahead. I'll try to put you only with the slides.
So this, okay.
No. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So this is the first time I have presented these slides in my presentation. What we know matters, who we are matters more, with the Hebrew translation. So I am so excited. I am passionate about diversity and inclusivity, and to see what Shirley has done with all my slides with the Hebrew translation makes me very happy. So this is a first for me. It's been a really tough year. We're all struggling with a new landscape, and we are living with COVID-19, and it's had its challenges. So to finish this year, still with the challenge of COVID, especially in the UK, It's really escalated the last few days in the UK. To be able to use technology, and thank you StreamYard, to speak to you this evening just makes me very happy. Okay, I want to push on. I want to talk about what we know is important, but actually who we are directly impacts horse welfare. And the spotlight in animal welfare is on the quality of life. And we're looking at the framework of how animals subjectively experience their lives. And this has been happening probably for the last 5 years right to now, that we are putting our spotlight on animals' mental status. And what we're looking at is their ability to experience positive, affective, or emotional states. What we are interested in is how we can show up for horses and give our horses a good life. I actually use the phrase best life. What is it that you and I can do to help our horses experience a good life? What do I actually mean? I relate the quality of life framework to a relationship bank account. And Shay's lovely translated this for me, but I'm talking about being able to, as a horse owner, lover, professional, adding in deposits. Now, when I mean add them in, can we help our horses feel good? Can we facilitate or create enrichment? Or another word is an experience, something that will actually add to their lives. What I'm interested in is the number and quality of deposits minus, so we're taking out the withdrawals. Now, what do they look like? Withdrawals are things like moving your horse to a new barn or new yard. It could be the loss through death or removal of a pair bond. So this is a horse that your horse has made a relationship with, and that horse either dies or moves to another yard. It can be veterinary intervention, and it can be the farrier, depending on how your horse experiences. So it's your individual horse experience or subject, their experience of the world. So this bank account will always have withdrawals in it. Like you and I, we take out money to pay for our mortgage. This is or to pay for rent for where you live, to feed yourself. So this is just going to happen anyway. What I'm really excited about with the quality of life framework is how we add more deposits into each individual's life, for our relationship to have at the end of their life, at the end of our horse's life, to be in a net effect of having more deposits than withdrawals. What do these deposits actually mean? There are 3 touchstones that I work with my clients, with colleges, universities, vets, international studs, charities. These 3 touchstones are for our horses, so they feel that we are able to make deposits, but they're also for us. So creating a safe space for ourselves, but for our horses. We are currently looking at research into attachment, and the research is looking at us humans being a safe haven. The jury's out at the moment as to whether we are that, but that's not to say that we can't delve deeper with more and more research. Calm, I'm really interested in this. There's a couple of little ways that you can physiologically change how your horse feels. One way is to train head down. Now, when we train head down, there's something called baroreceptors in your horse's poll in the head. And when we train head down, the baroreceptors go to the height of the heart, the horse's heart, and it physiologically lowers the heart rate. So straight away, we can access, or we can lower their arousal. And that is massively important to accessing safety. So we can start to be in the world of calm and facilitate calm. There's other things we can do physiologically to change how horses feel. And I may come on to that later, or I invite you to come and join my mastermind, which is called Espresso with Equicoach. And you can see lots of ways that we do this. But the third touchstone is about developing curiosity in our horses, and for them to be investigative and to find their world curious, like to show up and be curious. I also invite you to show up and be curious, like tonight. So well done for being here. And I'm delighted that you're curious enough to be here to join Shirley and I. But for horses, this is about helping them to be more investigative and perhaps to expand their bandwidth of resiliency. So I use the word resilient because the horses, your horse will experience negative or aversives. What I'm interested in is, how does your horse present for something that is aversive, and how do they build or expand that resiliency, so to objects that are new and novel? How do we expand their ability to be more curious with a novel or new object, rather than fearful and look away, turn away, run away? So what we actually know does matter. And I just wanted to share with you this image of, I totally get that we don't know what we don't know. And actually, if you're there now, or you've been here with another sport, for me it was running. When I didn't know what I didn't know, it was so blissful. It was actually probably a really nice bubble that I was interacting in. The reality is, it isn't able to optimize horse welfare. When we start to, and this is what Shirley has invited me in to talk to you this evening about, knowing what we don't know, then we start to learn. We become the learner, not the knower. And this really excites me. This is something that, this is something that Shirley's totally engaged with. She does a great job at translating knowledge so that we can, with this knowledge, not only know better, but we can action it. And this is do better. So that's really important to me. One of my core values is to walk the talk. So, I am able to take the latest research, so that's me upskilling or being curious enough to know better, and then I dive into the practical application so that I can actually do better and be the change that our horses need. There is an interesting stage in this process that some of us may stay at, which is, we may know better and we do the same. And I'm more than happy to take questions around this. It's quite challenging when we are so committed to improving horse welfare that people who know better and do the same can be a real roadblock for us to move forwards. And we can have a chat about that later. What I'm really interested in is our understanding of our own beliefs, and the fact that we are able to get information that tells us or supports what our existing beliefs already are. So this is called confirmation bias, and we know it. We've got loads of biases. There's something like over 40 different biases that we all live with. I call this my blind spot, and what I need to remember to check in my rear view mirror. I hope that translates well. So I'm aware that I've got my own biases, that I've got information around me to tell me what I already know. So this is well known. One of the things that keeps how I function is if I was to ask you, this is a piece of candy or a piece of rock that we have in the UK. It's like a sweet, and running through a piece of rock or candy can be anything really. And if I was to say you are the piece of candy, so come with me, and I was to snap you in half, what actually runs through you? Like, what is at your core? And for me, it always has been and is evidence-based knowledge. And the exciting thing for me about living these values of evidence-based knowledge is, as soon as the piece of research or the evidence shows that what I was doing in my coaching has been improved, or actually it's obsolete, so it's not of value anymore, I drop it and I'm able to let go of what I used to do. And I do that. I'm not teaching today what I taught even 2 years ago, because of the research that's happening in the field of equitation science. So that was really something that to share with you about how I try and show up for horses. But the thing that, if you were to ask me what's the one thing that sort of improves horse welfare, it is our own curiosity. It's this. It's being able to be curious enough to recognize that we have gaps in our knowledge. And when we have gaps in our knowledge, choosing to explore what we don't know, to know what we don't know, and to engage with curiosity, and to step into that, being the learner. It is uncomfortable. When we learn something for the first time, it is uncomfortable, because it requires us to have uncertainty. Like, we don't know what we don't know. Now we know that we don't know something. To be curious about what we don't know makes us vulnerable. And vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually stepping into uncertainty and perhaps emotional exposure, which is all about courage. It takes courage to be uncertain and to understand that what you're learning is new to you. And that, I really invite you to join and be and to stay curious. Okay, what should we be curious about? Well, the field of animal welfare is developing. It has been. It's moving forwards. We had in 2015 an upgrade from the 5 freedoms, which are in the UK legislation for animal welfare, and they were updated with these 5 domains. Now, the biggest difference is the addition of the mental domain, and you can see that we're looking at the idea of negative and positive mental states. So you can start to see examples on the mental domain of what this looks like, so we can start to assess the subjectivity of a horse's life with rigor and robustness. And that is where we're heading. So we can start to explore positive mental states in horses. We have done already, and there are some really lovely papers that are coming out about the evidence of horses experiencing positive mental states. Why is this important? It feeds into a welfare status, which I mentioned earlier, which is actually at the end of their life, so not in one interaction, one competition, one owner, but at the end of their life, what was the quality of that life? And are they on the path to living a good life or something else? But that wasn't where we stopped as scientists and practitioners. What happened this year, and this came out in November, is an upgrade to the 5 domains model. And what we did is we looked at behavior, the domain of behavior, and we added in interactions. That's with the environment, with other horses or the same species, and humans. And this really excites me. So we're now pushing out. We've moved on from the 5 freedoms. We're pushing into 5 domains. We've upgraded the 5 domains in 2020. So what I mean about when the science evolves, so do I. And now we've got a really great framework, so much so that the Federation of Horse Racing Authority has adopted and promoted the 5 domains model this year. I'm excited to see how that then filters into horse racing around the world. And only last month, the World Horse Welfare Conference, so this is a charity that went totally online. The whole conference was about our relationship with horses, and they asked this question: what's in it for the horse? Where we are at with our relationships is welfare over caring for horses. These are 2 great resources. One is from Horse South Australia, Horse SA, which is on the left-hand side, courtesy of Julie Fiedler. And the other is from Horses and People magazine. And this is a free download. Both of them you can get access to. And you will see specific examples of when horses are experiencing positive mental states and negative. And you can see in the area of nutrition, health, environment, and behavior and human interactions. And this is what gives us the overall mental domain of where your horse is actually experiencing their lives. And this is subjective to each individual horse. What I'm hoping you're picking up is now rigorous, their subjective experience. We are beginning to get into exploring as scientists how horses experience their world. The thing I wanted to really sort of introduce you to, if you haven't already, and I think Shirley does a fantastic job at signposting you to really valued resources. And I really value the field of equitation science, in particular the International Society for Equitation Science, because they have also evolved and adapted and responded. We've had 3 iterations of the principles, the first training principles. And what excites me is they went from 8 to 10, and you can start to see in the last one, they're much more digestible for everyone and anyone. And I call this for horse lovers. And they're just principles. What they're not is methods. These are not 10 methods for you to train your horse. These are principles or pillars that you can look at everyone's training, everyone's method, and you can start to see where within the method, the principle is being applied. And we've got things from the safety of people and the safety of the horse to their emotional state. So I mentioned earlier about lowering your horse's arousal, to assessing and showing up with self-carriage. What does self-carriage actually mean? Well, for your horses to keep going until you signal otherwise. And that could be in immobility when you're trying to mount or to get on. Like, this is really important that you start to explore the language of how horses learn. And, you know, we talk about scientific words, but the language is things like adding something attractive or additional to get more of what we do want, reinforcement, or taking away something that is aversive to get more of what we do want. So like your leg pressure, your rein pressure. And the pressure is the least amount of pressure, but it's the removal that trains a horse. The pressure motivates. We're talking about lightness, the least amount of pressure. That is known as removal reinforcement. And this language is really important so that we start to have conversations about this. I'm sharing this whole presentation with you this evening on a PDF. So you'll get this in the group, Shelley's group, and you can take this in at your own speed. But I've called this the vault of current knowledge. This is what we do know. Now, if you are still showing up believing that horses need to respect you and that training is about dominance relationships, so your horse needs to be submissive, you are out of date. If you still believe that using punishment, and we call this adding something. So if your horse is a rearer and you choose to take a whip and use a whip and crack the whip between your horse's ears at the peak of the rear, it is to suppress rearing. I mean, punishment is about suppressing behavior, not making it more likely. For 50% of horses, it may work. You might stop your horse rearing. But for the other 50%, they will rear more. So they will increase the frequency of that behavior. But worse than that, whilst you are using the whip between their ears, you are causing pain and fear, and you are the association to that. So let's go back to the beginning about relationships. Have you put more deposits into your relationship bank account than withdrawals? If you are still showing up with punishment, because it is effective, it does suppress in 50% of horses the behavior, you are taking out of your relationship, and you are not building where we're heading to, which is the language of enrichment, demonstrating that horses through our relationships are being enriched. And that's something that's going to need, that we're going to need to go there very soon as a sport, as horse or animals in sport. Because if we're showing up whipping horses as we are in horse racing, the public are not digesting it. They are not, it's not acceptable. We don't whip dogs and other domestic animals. And in the past that has happened, and that's been unacceptable socially and recognized as abuse, and the same with horses. So at best, if you are still using punishment in your horse training, at best, you're out of date. We've moved on. And at worst, you are causing expressions of fear in your horses, and you are totally destroying any relationship that would demonstrate enrichment and the fact that having a relationship with animals in sport and leisure is optimal. So that was the first part of tonight, which is what we know really does matter. And that's all we've got in that current evidence-based vault of knowledge. But I'm actually now going to carry on with my invitation to you. Not only does what you know matter, but who you are actually matters more. So this is a scene from The Matrix. It's now 20 years ago. It is a film that really, for me, resonates with horse training and our culture. And I've shown you here, there's a blue pill being handed to the lead character called Neo. The man that's handing the blue pill is called Morpheus, and Morpheus has recognized in Neo that he feels a glitch. He wakes up every day and he feels quite glitchy. And I can relate to this as a horse lover and a horse trainer back in my 20s. I went through the British Horse Society qualifications. I had my Pony Club A test, but I felt like a glitch. And it was because I asked questions like, why? Why does that work? Why, when I put my inside leg to outside rein, does that change how my horse feels? Why does it work? I was also interested in the how and what. Now, this is about things like the biomechanics, the optimal time to give an aid or to signal with pressure for a response is at the start of the swing phase of the limb that you're trying to either accelerate or decelerate, to open or close. And I wasn't taught this going through these systems, that the biomechanics, there's an optimal window. If you wait until the stance phase or coming into the stance phase of that limb that you want to turn or quicken, the horse just has to be delayed. You have to wait until that's the limb that you're trying to quicken or turn actually is back in the swing phase. These are tiny bits of information that the field of equitation science has dug deep into. We've dug deep into biomechanics, psychology, ethology, and we've brought this together with the latest knowledge. So the blue pill is a bit like as Morpheus says, take the blue pill. Tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll be exactly the same as you were today. And it reminds me of horse training, and you're taking the blue pill day in, day out. What the red pill reminds me of is that first experience or exposure to what we do know about how horses learn, and the whole reality of how horses feel about what we do to them. So I'm talking about using pressure release training or removal reinforcement, and I'm talking about adding something attractive such as scratches, which we know that horses do to each other, and it lowers their heart rate. We can also add food to make it more likely in the future to get a behavior. But remember, some horses, when they're adrenalized and they're heading to anxiety, will stop taking food. So unless we keep them below that threshold so they don't go into the anxiety but they stay aroused, food will not be optimal for that individual horse. One size fits one. This is the point about your horse. He's got his own unique learning history, unique genetics, and the environment is unique because the environment is with you. So the previous owner or the next owner will be a different environment. So these three variables make up how we what choices we make with the method we're going to use. But the principle that we're trying to regulate or manage their emotional state stands, whatever method. So the red pill is about swallowing the truth about how horses learn and how they actually feel. And one thing that Morpheus says to Neo, if you can watch the film, if you haven't yet to watch it, is pick the pill you want to take. The only thing I can promise you is the truth with the red pill. But the blue pill, you will wake up and you'll get the same feeling every single day that you've had already. This is taking the red pill of evidence-based knowledge. And it does, some of us might comment later this evening in the chat about how that makes you feel. And for some of us, it can feel very lonely. You don't need to be alone. Shirley has had this community, so you're not alone. I have my community. Come and join Coffee with Horse Lovers. It's a community on Facebook, and Shirley is really, she's really proactive, and we're asking questions and we're talking about the actual evidence or the science, and we're speaking to the researchers about what this actually means when we can know better and then do better. So what does this look like? I'm suggesting to you that because you're here watching tonight's get together, I'm going to suggest that you have a propensity to adopt and to change. I'm going to say that you're probably in the early majority of people being changed. You might even be an early adopter, which is Shirley. Shirley is definitely, she's certainly an early adopter. Maybe you are in Israel and all over watching this. We have a lady from Canada. What I want to say to you at this point, when you look at this, there is resistance to change. And that's going to be the late majority to the field of evidence-based knowledge or equitation science. Don't worry about this. There's also the laggards. And that they do come along just eventually. They're not on your timeline. But remember, it's all about resistance to change. And when we are curious, we start to step into ability to adapt and respond. I think 2020 has been about your ability to adapt and respond, and that word pivot, because it has been one of the most unprecedented times that as a generation we've had to live through. What else do I think horse welfare is directly impacted by is our relationships with each other. And this is to do with your vet, your farrier, your yard manager, and it's to do with how we interact with each other. I do believe that we are all doing the best we can with the tools or the knowledge we have at that time. And that makes me so much more generous. I do believe that whole, when we don't know what we don't know, I understand that place. And when we're trying to do better, we make mistakes. We have disappointments. And this is being human. We're just doing the best we can with what we have at that time. Excuse me. I believe passionately that horse welfare is directly impacted by our ability to have meaningful relationships with each other and to build a life around relationships. That's you with your horse and you with the people around you. One of the things that improves our relationships and sort of deepens how we feel to help our horses is when we are authentic, so it's real, praise the people in our ecosystem. This is really important. This is about telling people of their worth and their value, and to take a moment to become this ideal, this image of a praise prism. It looks very different to perhaps what we're used to experiencing in our equestrian communities, which is bashing. And this is about suppressing what we don't want. So we bash people, horse lovers, for what they're doing, whether it's to their horse or to each other. And punishment, as I've already said, at best is just outdated. We can just interact differently and better than this. I call this in humans to each other, I call this the calling out culture. If you are happily bashing others, you're calling out problems that will cause a backfire effect. What it means is people you're bashing for whatever reason to do with your good intentions and your horse welfare will hold on even tighter to what it is that you're bashing them for. So it's had the opposite effect. And so actually it's not even effective. But the worst thing about bashing people is it really impacts how we feel and how we can move forwards and improve how horses feel. So I'm really passionate about this and about how you show up for each other and for our horses. Shame is not a tool for horse justice, and that really resonates with me. If you think shaming others is going to change horse welfare, it is the opposite. Shame begets shame, excuse me, and it will really not work in the favour of horses. So I think that's something I would just like us to process, and I'm happy to come back or talk about this later. We are only as strong as we are united and as weak as we are divided. Difference of habit and language are nothing at all if our aims are identical and our hearts are open. This is a quote from Professor Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Albus Dumbledore, Professor Albus Dumbledore, and I love this quote. And I believe that we are all connected through the love of horses, and that our differences actually are minimal for the love for what we share, which is the love of horses. So I just wanted to share this with you. I ran a workshop in the summer online, and this is the slide from Dr. David Marlin, and it was all about agency, how we can give horses agency, and we got on to what are the barriers, and David's slide was all about improving horse welfare through collaboration. This is amongst scientists. We need to come to a consensus of the information or the research, and then we need to find ways to effectively communicate that knowledge. And for me, these organizations that are on this slide are really all sharing the same common theme. Yes, they are different in how they communicate and in methods, but for every single organization on this slide, it is all about horse welfare, and it's about the horse being at the center of all of these organizations, what they do. And that excites me. Like, this is what when we go into meaningful collaborations, we start to look at what we have going on that's similar, and we explore our differences, because I do passionately believe in diversity and how through diversity we can explore and all of us become better. This is a little quick video I want to share with you about your role in being the change for horse welfare. I'm just going to press play, and we can talk about it in a minute.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
I'm hoping you enjoyed the video just to see people close together in our socially distant landscape at the moment. We're also used to being in masks and separate. So I am enjoying constantly watching that video. I will come back to that in the questions. I'm more than happy to, about how being the first and second followers takes a movement to a tipping point, and then actually people, a bit like the bell-shaped curve I showed earlier, that don't worry about the late majority, because actually the early adopters and the early majority are making a movement. So these are the obstacles that we recognized and identified in our workshop this year. And there's lots on there. I've already mentioned language. I've mentioned confirmation bias. There are quite a few others there. And for me to talk to you tonight in Israel and in all around the world is about me coming out of my own echo chamber, which is about the people that already have the same beliefs as me. So it'd be great to go and have these conversations of difference and to just start sharing or coming into other people, like outside of your own echo chamber. There's also the YouTube expert, or the demise of the expert. So there's a YouTuber culture, and the fact that within science, there seems to be disagreement between the researchers, and that causes for concern. These are many obstacles, or there's 8 obstacles, and I'm happy that we can go there with questions. This is something we're all trying to explore in order to improve horse welfare. So what are my 3 points to take away for this evening? for being the change our horses need, and that is to stay curious. So that's one of my core values, is to stay curious. Be aware of your own biases. Keep checking your rearview mirror. Look for your own biases, whether you're seeking people out that have the same beliefs as you. Do you look for people that have a different belief system or method or opinion, and can you sit there and be curious and then engage in welfare over care? And welfare really is moving forwards. I've already mentioned to you about the 5 domains model and the latest interactions with behavior. Things are moving, and that excites me for horses. Equitation science is a field, but it's here to get it right for horses. We're not here to be right. And that, I think, frames all the research that comes out of the field of equitation science. So finally, I've got my last 2 slides. Come and join us, Coffee with Horse Lovers. It's this is the group on Facebook. And then if you want to deep dive into specific content to coach you and your horse through your training using evidence-based knowledge, then come and join my coaching mastermind, which is Espresso with EquiCoach. And Shirley is a member, actually, and she can probably tell you a bit more about what that feels like and what actually happens there. Okay. Oh, loads of comments. Questions?
Yeah. Please give StreamYard permission so I can show your name, but I will show this comment I see it's by Onit. She would love to get some more information. So I guess I think she's asking regarding the training and clinics, maybe. What kind of more information? You're welcome to go on the other Facebook groups, on ליסה's Facebook communities. מוזמנים לקבוצות הפייסבוק של ליסה. אני שמתי גם את הכישורים. I put out the links in the comments, so have a look at there. And we are planning to do some clinics, maybe online clinics.
Yeah,
right, Lisa? I'm so excited.
Before we went live, and we thought, if you have some specific behaviors that you would like to change, to take a short video recording, and we can do some online clinics. And I use technology to really blitz the behavior that you've already got and how to change that behavior. I do prefer to go work off a video rather than like this, because I get to see how your horse feels about you, the environment, and I get to see your signals and your communication, so I can be very specific with my feedback. But yeah, thank you for asking for more information.
Yeah, we are planning to do some more interactive sessions, a clinic or some kind that might be interesting for you. So anybody who is interested, so we know if it's something you want to do, please write down in the comments. We would really appreciate that. Okay, we have another comment from Rachel. Now she gave StreamYard permission.
Hi, Rachel.
So that's good. Yeah, so Rachel is in Canada. She's from Israel originally, but she's located in Canada right now. So when we are stuck in the fate of know better but not doing anything new about it, what is your advice to get out of this stage in order to get to the phase of do better?
Question. Often we know better and do the same because it's convenient and easy. I think that word curiosity, to want to explore more, is, for some people it's really easy to be curious. For others it's uncomfortable and it feels fearful. So if this is advice for you and you're quite happy as you are and everything's happening, I would just explore what else, like what if there was ways to manage your horse that would improve your performance. So I work with competition riders And competition riders are always looking to improve the percentage or their performance. And that's a conversation I have. When I work with charities who are doing the same, and it's just easy to do the same, I talk about safety. And we really can help more horses within the charities when we talk about improving safety for the horses and the people. So there's key language that will open doors, but these doors, I think, are like seeds. And like tonight is a seed that we're sprinkling, Shirley and I. And some of these seeds will land in a desert, and some of these seeds will land in a swamp. And and you might think that'll be it. Nothing will happen, Rachel. But if you're trying to communicate with people about how we can change what we do to help horses, if you think that nothing's going to change and it's just they do know better, but they do the same, just let the seed stay there and see what happens. I love watching how some seeds that I think are in a desert actually grow and germinate and become a seedling, and it's not on our timeline, it's on the individual, like a horse. For some seeds it might take years in some people to explore their own curiosity. So I'm more interested in spreading seeds. Does that make sense? Than worrying about how much of the seed has grown. Like, I think it's all about more, and Shirley does this with the group. So I don't know if I've answered your question. Is your advice to get out of this stage in order to one of the things that I focus on for me to get out of my own comfort zone is to be more curious. As soon as I show up with curiosity, I go into discomfort and I learn something, and I think living in discomfort is so healthy, but we don't all want to be like, we do love an unhealthy path as well. Go on, Shirley.
Yeah. I think thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I think that was a wonderful question, and I think it's actually a lot of it is when you spread those seeds, you can't expect for all of them to germinate and to grow into lovely plants, but you can hope and you can be patient, as you said, and not rush it, because sometimes if you do rush it, it will do the other way.
What about for you, Rachel? Yeah. What if we don't get to decide whether the seed gets sunlight and water? Like, I don't get to decide if the seed's going to germinate. I've spread the seed, like tonight, but you, receiving the seed, you decide if you're going to put sunlight on it. And sunlight is probably curiosity. Water is probably knowledge. I don't get to decide whether you're going to educate yourself or explore any of this further. That's not for me to do. I think that's something that education is make an assumption that just because, I think one of your Sholmi Levy, she's put here, so he's put here, thanks for your lecture. But I don't get to decide whether, thank you, Sholmi. How do you say his name? Oh, okay. I don't get to decide if that is educational to Sholmi. I don't get to decide that. He does. And I think that's the seed bit. Some seeds will just stay in swamps or in the desert. It's when we decide to water the seed with curiosity and knowledge, can we actually improve horse welfare?
Yeah, absolutely. We have another comment from Amit. I will translate. He says, you put the seeds in the ground, but they grow in their own pace, and we can only water them and prevent and protect them from parasites.
Protect from parasites. So what about building resiliency with our seeds? What about actually in England we think of a word like willow. Do you know willow?
Yeah. Arava.
Yeah, so it ebbs and flows. Willow. Like it's really resilient. So it can have thunderstorm, it's snow, dry, and it ebbs and flows. Like, what if that's the future of seeds and spreading seeds is resiliency? Who knows?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this analogy works wonderfully, and if you take care of the seed of the plant that grows, and it can be resilient and strong, and it all depends on what you do with it. We have another comment. This is so important. I cherish your seed, and go on with it, and with both of you. Thank you.
Did Rachel say something about? I do believe curiosity is a big factor. There you go.
Yeah. So absolutely, curiosity is so important, and it's the way you put it, that it's when you realize that there is a gap in knowledge that you don't know. That's a wonderful definition for curiosity, that you find out that there's something that you don't know and you need to search for it. And I think that's amazing. It's amazing definition.
We're really
need a reminder.
Yeah, we're really talking about us being the change, like being the seeds, planting seeds, and we decide whether we're going to be curious or not. So I think, this is why I talk a lot about how we show up to advocate for horses directly impacts horse welfare, and having conversations like this is a great step in the whole process of moving horse welfare forwards.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and I thank you so much for doing this, and it's wonderful to talk to like-minded people and to be able to introduce you to other like-minded people or curious people here in Israel, because I think we can grow, we can develop, we can change things for the better, and we can do that, especially if we do that together. As you said, we're stronger if we're together than if we're divided.
And I think on that note, Shirley, together doesn't mean we have to agree. Like, I do really value different, and I really believe that we can have absolutely different methods, and we can look at the principles and explore. One of the things I'm really interested in is recognizing how horses feel. So we can agree that a horse actually is in a positive mental state or a negative mental state. And with that agreement, we can sort of work together to understand how we get to how that individual horse feels. So I don't have to agree with your method, Shirley, of how you train, but when I see your horse in a positive mental state, we have a connection, and I think that's the bit that I'm really interested in, is having diverse conversations about difference, because what we're all passionate about is how horses actually feel. That might be something that your watchers might want to comment on, maybe.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, as you said, I will show a few comments in a sec. I think the key thing that, as you said, our purpose, our goal is similar. We want to help the horse. We want to have our horses happy and take care of their welfare. And there are many ways to do that. There are many methods. And there are few principles. So as I think we don't have to agree, but if we talk about subjects with the same purpose in mind, and then we're talking about the same thing, just different paths to get there. And it's really important to get that there are different paths. There's this, as you said, there's the guru kind of mentor kind of issue, that sometimes there's this celebrity or or a leader that decides on one way to do something, and you think that's the only right way to do that, and you cancel some of your thoughts of how to do that sometimes, and you dismiss other options suggested by others, and that's a problem, because I think once we're open to different ways, different methods to reach to the same goal, we can be more accepting, and then we're together and not divided, even if we don't agree.
Nice. When I was listening to you about we don't have to agree, and it prompted a little synapse, which is the saying, we don't actually have to, agreement isn't actually about empathy, showing empathy. So walking a mile in someone else's shoes is not agreement. Like, you don't actually have to agree with somebody that you're empathizing with. And I think I've explored this a lot with tight nosebands. You know, like I think I've had more behavioral change for horses by walking a mile in my client's shoes or not my client's shoes. So horse riders who really tighten their nosebands, when I understand why those nosebands are tight and what the rider is getting out of that, I have been able to navigate and change that action and that behavior. But showing up and judging and wagging my finger at a tight noseband does the total opposite. And the rider carries on, more so tightening their nosebands. And the horse is the one that this impacts how I communicate. So I think empathy and empathizing with all of us, whatever road you're traveling on, doesn't mean agreement. That's what you prompted in my thought process. I thought, I can empathize with your method. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It just, I understand why you're showing up, doing what you do. What I'm interested in is exploring how we can make your horse, all horses, feel better. And I think where the most change comes from is curiosity, to want to do that.
I think part of it is when you see someone doing something that you think is not right, not good for the horse, or not correct, first thing you should do sometimes is ask them, why do you do that? And not in a criticizing way, trying not to be critical, but actually trying to understand, and as you said, be empathetic to understand their point of view and their situation. And that's much better than coming up and saying, why are you doing that? That's not right. Instead of the question.
One is about value judgments. And like, for me, that always puts people into their belief system stronger. You know, when you show up judging and putting a value to it, like that is negative mental welfare or negative welfare. Actually, one of my favorite go-to language that I use is say more. And I just listen, and I will hear somebody say why they do something, or I get more information by listening than I do by talking. And asking, say more, is really, really one of my go-tos actually.
We have some thank yous here, and Amit mentioned there's a big difference between knowledge and tuna. I'll try to translate that. Wisdom, knowledge and wisdom.
Okay, yeah, nice. So it's a bit like the knowledge and practice. You know, what we know and what we do might be sort of there's gaps, perhaps.
Yeah, between just knowing or understanding. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Ifat, thank you. Glad to see all of you here. Amiram also wanted to say thank you for an interesting lecture, and he's glad that he's gained some knowledge and motivation to keep going, nice. Which is good. We always, it's so important to have some boost to your motivation by engaging with like-minded people and talking about change and not just doing it alone. So
yeah, that's the key. Shirley, you're very good at this. You know, you're all about community and support. And I think if you are feeling alone and you're pushing, like if it feels like you're pushing a big rock up the hill, I get it. I get the weight of the rock, but we're all here. And I say there are communities like Shirley's, and I've mentioned Coffee with Horse Lovers, where we get it. We get that boulder, pushing that boulder up the hill. And I do think we should rest. I do think rest is training. And if this tonight inspires you or motivates you to go again with helping more horses, then absolutely, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. One of the things is that I really, and I will repeat it in Hebrew because it's really important for me for everyone to understand. It's so important for you guys to come, to join me, to join Lisa, and for you to show up and engage and be part of this change, because it's something that none of us can do alone. And alone, as you saw in me dancing alone, doing a funny dance on the lawn alone looks really, really scary and weird. But once you guys are joining me, it's much different. And so this is amazing for all of you to join us, and I'm really thankful. So תודה רבה לכל מי שהצטרף אלינו הערב, ובאמת תודה שאתם חלק מהשינוי הזה, זה שום דבר ממה שקורה השנה עם אקווידע לא יוכל לקרות בלעדיכם. אז תודה לכולם. And thank you, Lisa.
Lovely.
You inspire me each and every time, and engaging in your communities and talking with you is always it always motivates me and inspires me. So thank you so much for being this light and a leader for change. It's amazing.
Shirley, you have a fantastic community. I'm just looking at all these comments, and like you just said, Shirley, we couldn't have this evening without all of you guys wanting to be here. Time is so precious. We never get it back. The fact that you've all just spent an hour with both of us means a lot to me, and it means a lot to Shirley. So I really value you being with us tonight and giving both of us your time. I think all I want to say is Merry Christmas, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you all in the new year. I hope we'll still do some clinic work. I can deep dive into your behavior, your horse behaviors and behavioral change. I can see there's lots of comments coming in. I love seeing the Hebrew. I love it. So it's really special to me that tonight I'm in a diverse community, and that really helps. For me, it's walking my own talk. And Shirley, once again, I really value you inviting me. It's been lovely. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Merry Christmas to you, and happy holidays, and a happy new year. And maybe have a better year, which I hope wouldn't be that hard to do. But yeah. So and we will, and I hope to see you here in Aquida.
Yeah. Aquida, your community, Aquida. You will see me in Aquida, and I can't wait.
Yeah, so everyone put in the comments also what will be interesting for you to do and to talk about with Lisa, and let us know. Thank you so much.